You ever get that gut feeling on a flight that something's just... That was me staring out the window somewhere over Kansas, flying 300 miles for a birthday. I helped plan but wasn't really invited to. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to get the kind of wake-up call that makes you question everything you thought you knew about family. My name's Drew, I'm 29, I live in Seattle, and for the last 6 years I've been bankrolling a man who used to be my hero, my dad. Back in the day, he was a legend. Single dad raising 2 boys after mom bailed when I was 13. He worked doubles, never missed my soccer games, always made sure there was mac and cheese in the fridge and gas in the car. And when I landed a killer job in cybersecurity right out of college, he was the one who pushed me to take it. "Don't worry about me," he said. "Go be great." So I did. I moved to Seattle, I worked hard, and when he needed help, I gave it no questions asked. It started small. His truck died and he was between jobs. $3,200 later, he was back on the road. Then came the medical bills from a botched knee surgery. Then the roof, then the furnace. I stepped in every time because I wanted to. Because I loved him. Because I believed we were a team. But over time, that team started feeling more like a business. And I was the investor who didn't realize he was buying into a sinking ship. I didn't see it at first. I was too busy grinding at work, dating, trying to build a life. But the signs were there, the shift in tone, the "hey bud, got a sec" messages that always meant another request. The gratitude started fading. The guilt trip started landing. And then came her, Monica, the stepmom. Blonde, manicured, and always dressed like she was auditioning for Real Housewives of Tucson. She floated into Dad's life like a champagne bubble and popped whatever boundaries we had left. Suddenly, Dad needed a home theater upgrade. Then a hot tub. Then a weekend getaway to Napa for her birthday. Somehow, these luxuries kept aligning with urgent expenses I was expected to help cover. Meanwhile, my younger brother Trent had moved back in, bringing with him a diet of Monster energy drinks and video game marathons. He'd dropped out of college to figure things out, which apparently meant sponging off Dad and occasionally Instagramming motivational quotes. The dynamic turned fast. I became the invisible ATM, Trent became the golden boy, and Dad, he became someone I didn't recognize. Still, I kept showing up. Every major holiday I flew back. Every time he said he missed me, I sent a text. Every time he hinted he needed help, I sent money. But this time was different. 2 months ago, Dad called, voice buzzing with excitement. "Thinking of doing something big for my Sith," he said. "Just close family, some friends, at the Horizon Grand." I Googled it. The Horizon Grand was no joke. Their private events start at $200 a head and go way up from there. "You serious?" I asked, half laughing. "Absolutely. I want to do it right. I want you there, Drew. Really." That was all it took. I wired him the money, over $10,000. Helped him pick the menu. Gave suggestions for music. Spent hours on calls helping with logistics. I didn't receive a formal invite, but I figured, why would I? I helped plan the thing. So I booked the flight, took time off, bought a new charcoal gray suit that cost more than my first car, rented a car, booked a hotel. I told myself this would be good. This would be the start of a new chapter. The night before the event, I texted, "Excited to see you tomorrow. Let me know if you need help setting up." No reply. Weird, but not panic-worthy. My flight touched down just before 5 p.m. on the day of the party. I was tired, jet-lagged, but still hopeful. Checked into my hotel, showered, slipped into that new suit, and drove to the Horizon Grand. The place looked amazing. String lights, crystal glassware, an open bar that probably cost as much as a used Tesla. I felt a strange mix of pride and anxiety as I walked up to the ballroom doors. A woman in a black blazer with a clipboard greeted me. Name: Drew Ellison, I'm the birthday guy's son. She flipped pages, checked again. "I'm sorry, you're not on the list." I blinked. There's gotta be a mistake, I helped organize this. She gave me a practiced smile. "Let me check with the event manager." As she stepped aside to whisper into her headset, I stood there, watching guests trickle in. People I hadn't seen in years, some I barely recognized. My cousin Fiona waved. A neighbor from my childhood gave me a thumbs up. And then I saw him, my dad, laughing with Trent, wearing a brand new suit, holding a drink, not looking around for me. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a mistake, I wasn't on the list, on purpose. I stared down at my phone. No response to my earlier text. No new messages. Just a growing pit in my stomach. And I thought, so this is what being written out of your own story feels like. But they had no idea who they were messing with. Not yet. I stood at the entrance, every muscle in my body tensed, my brain racing to catch up with what my gut already knew. I wasn't on the guest list. I wasn't welcome. Not at the party I'd funded, not in the room I helped design, not in the family I'd practically carried for the last 6 years. The event manager finally came over, calm and professional, offering a polite explanation about limited capacity and how the guest list was curated. I could hear the buzz of conversation and clinking glasses inside like the soundtrack to a life I was no longer part of. I texted my dad again. No response. 15 minutes passed before he finally emerged from the ballroom with Trent by his side, both of them looking like they'd just come from a photo shoot. Dad's expression was casual, almost bored. Didn't think you'd actually fly in, he said. No smile, no hug, just that. I stared at him, trying to understand. Why wouldn't I? You said you wanted me here. I helped pay for this. He shifted his weight uncomfortably. It got complicated. Monica thought it might be best to keep it small. Intimate. I flew here from Seattle, I said, my voice low but steady. I paid for this entire thing. You said you wanted everyone together. Trent scoffed beside him, arms crossed like a middle school bully. Real family, Drew. You only show up twice a year. Monica and I were here every day. We deal with the real stuff. Real stuff, I almost laughed. Trent's idea of real stuff was figuring out how to game the DoorDash promo codes. You deal with things, I asked, incredulous. Like Dad's medical bills last year, or the roof leak, or the trip to Cancun you guys somehow managed during the budget crisis. Dad winced at that, and Trent's face flushed. This isn't the place, Dad muttered. You're right, I said. The place was paid for by me. The least I deserve is to walk through those doors. Don't do this, he said, quieter now. It'll just create a scene. I'm not the one who made a scene, Dad. That was you. When you took my money, told me this party mattered, and didn't even have the decency to tell me I wasn't invited. He didn't have a response for that. Just a sigh and a tired shake of his head. I could tell he was hoping I'd leave quietly. Let them have their perfect night, their curated guest list, their revisionist version of family? I was supposed to disappear, be the ghost that funded the gala, but I wasn't going anywhere. You want to keep it small and intimate? I asked, stepping forward. Then let's talk to Aunt Valerie and Uncle Neil, or maybe Grandma who flew in from Phoenix. Let's ask them if I belong here. Drew, stop, he said sharply. But I wasn't listening. I was already walking toward the ballroom doors. The event manager hesitated, clearly caught in the middle. I turned to him. My name is on every transaction connected to this event. The deposit, the catering, the music. You want to check with your accounting team before you block me? He stepped aside. Go ahead, sir. Inside the room was glowing soft lighting tables with elegant centerpieces, a jazz trio playing in the corner. My stepmom Monica was laughing with a group near the bar, a glass of white wine in one hand and her phone in the other. When she saw me walk in, her smile froze. I kept moving, scanning for familiar faces. My aunt caught sight of me first, eyes widening in surprise before she made her way over, arms open. There you are, I was wondering when you'd show. Apparently I wasn't expected, I said, hugging her. Her brows furrowed. What are you talking about? I'll fill you in later, I said. Just know I'm not exactly a welcome guest. That fired her up immediately. Is this Monica's doing? Does it matter? I replied. I'm here now. Damn right you are, she said. And you're not going anywhere. As we talked, other relatives began drifting over, greeting me, thanking me for the party. Because they knew. They'd heard. Some had even seen the bank transfer text I'd posted in the family group chat weeks ago. And now standing here surrounded by people I hadn't seen in years, it became painfully clear this wasn't about distance. It wasn't about who was really there. It was about control. Dad and Monica wanted a narrative they could manage. One where I was too distant, too selfish, too focused on my career to be part of this picture. One where they could keep taking what they wanted without the inconvenience of acknowledging where it came from. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was focused. Because if they wanted to pretend I didn't belong, then they were going to learn exactly what it meant to exclude the person who made the entire thing possible. I made my way to the bar, grabbed a club soda, and waited. Dinner was wrapping up. The lights dimmed. The DJ signaled the start of the speeches. Monica took the mic first, delivering a syrupy tribute to Dad. He's the kind of man who's always there, she said, eyes shining through thick and thin. For the people who matter most. I raised my glass and took a slow sip. She handed the mic to Trent, who delivered his own little monologue. Dad's been my rock, he said, voice thick with fake emotion. I wouldn't be who I am without him. That much was probably true, just not in the way he meant it. Then my aunt stepped forward, mic in hand. Before we wrap this up, she said with a tight smile, "There's someone here who has a few words, someone who made tonight possible." She turned toward me. Drew. A few people clapped. Dad's face went pale. Monica's mouth opened slightly like she wanted to object but couldn't find the words. I walked up slowly, taking the mic with calm hands. "Thanks, Aunt Val," I said. Then I turned to the crowd. "I won't take long. I just wanted to say a few words for the man we're celebrating tonight. My dad." I let the silence settle. 6 years ago, I started helping my dad financially. It was small at first, a car repair, some medical bills. I was happy to do it. Because this is the man who raised me, who showed up, who sacrificed. But somewhere along the way, that turned into something else. Calls started to sound like invoices. Visits felt like transactions. The gratitude faded. The expectations grew. A few heads turned. I saw Monica whisper something to Trent. I kept going. Even tonight, this party, I funded every part of it. From the venue to the dessert bar. Not because I wanted recognition, but because I believed in family. I believed we were still that team. I looked directly at Dad. Until I showed up and found out I wasn't even on the guest list. Gasps rippled through the room. So, if I seem out of place tonight now, you know why. But I'm not here to cause drama. I'm here because I earned the right to be. I'm here because family isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up when it matters and doing it without needing applause. I handed the mic back to my aunt and stepped away. The room was dead silent for a beat. Then applause. Hesitant at first, then stronger. A few people stood. Monica was frozen in place. Trent stared at the floor. Dad didn't move. I walked back to my seat and took another sip of soda. No need for more words. The truth was loud enough. The silence after my speech was thick. Not uncomfortable, but undeniable. People glanced at each other processing. You could almost hear the collective math being done in their heads. Wait, Drew paid for all this. The flowers, the 5-course meal, the DJ. I didn't bask in it. I didn't need to. I just sat back down, straightened my jacket, and let the truth settle. Across the room, Monica was stiff. Her smile had vanished, and her grip on her wine glass had tightened like she was holding onto the last thread of her carefully curated reality. Trent wouldn't look at me. He sat with his arms folded, muttering something to the cousin next to him who clearly wanted no part of this mess. And Dad? Dad just stared at his plate, motionless like he'd forgotten how to eat. My aunt leaned in. That was something she said, not sure whether to congratulate me or worry. Did I go too far? I asked, voice low. She shook her head slowly. No, you went exactly far enough. I nodded. I didn't need validation, but it felt good to hear. After the speeches wrapped, dessert came out, some elaborate layered cake that looked like it belonged on a wedding table. I had helped pick the flavor over a long, awkward phone call with Dad a few weeks ago. Chocolate hazelnut with espresso cream, his favorite. But now he didn't even touch it. The energy in the room had changed. People were polite, but the conversations had shifted. The air buzzed with tension beneath the surface smiles. A few distant relatives made a point of walking over to thank me. My uncle even gave me a solid pat on the back and said, "Hell of a speech." Took guts. I appreciated that more than he probably realized. It wasn't about drama, it was about drawing a line. For the first time in years, I had stopped giving quietly and started speaking truth with volume. Monica eventually slinked over, all tight-lipped and brittle charm. "Drew," she said, "I'm sure you meant well, but that wasn't the right moment." "You're welcome for the party," I said evenly. "Enjoy the cake." Her jaw tightened. She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She knew better. This wasn't her arena. This wasn't a dinner table she could control with a smirk and a guilt trip. This was public, witnessed, documented, unspinnable. After a few more interactions, I grabbed my coat and slipped out. No need for a grand exit. I'd said my piece, let them clean up the aftermath. Outside, the air was cool and quiet. I stood by the curb, taking a deep breath, letting the noise of the evening fade behind the hotel doors. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Just 3 words. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a moment, then turned the screen off. I didn't block him, but I didn't respond either. Back at my hotel, I loosened the tie, poured a glass of water, and sat on the bed, feeling everything all at once. It wasn't victory. Not really. It was release. A breath I'd been holding for 6 years. I had always thought family meant unconditional loyalty. That no matter what happened, you showed up. You paid the bills, you fixed the mess. But loyalty without respect isn't noble, it's exploitation dressed up in tradition. And I was done playing along. The next morning, I checked out early, skipped the brunch that Monica had scheduled like nothing had happened. I drove past the old neighborhood, the street where I learned to ride a bike, the park where Dad used to take us for burgers and football on Saturdays. I barely recognized it. Maybe because I'd changed, or maybe because the rose-colored glasses had finally come off. On the flight back to Seattle, I sat by the window again, watching clouds drift by like floating apologies that came too late. My phone stayed on airplane mode. I needed space from all of it. When I landed, I turned it back on. 35 missed messages, 10 from Dad, 2 from Trent, a handful from other relatives ranging from shocked support to veiled guilt trips, but one voicemail stood out. My Uncle Dad's brother. We'd never been close. He always struck me as cold, distant, but his voice crackling through the speaker sounded different this time. I saw what you did. I know what it took. Your dad, he's made mistakes. So did mine. This stuff runs deep in our family. But I'll tell you something, Drew, you did what most of us never had the guts to do. You didn't just speak up, you stopped the bleeding. I didn't expect that. And for a moment, it made me feel less alone. The following week was strangely quiet. No more calls begging for help, no texts with thinly veiled requests. It was as if once I'd drawn the line, no one quite knew how to cross it. And that suited me just fine. I shifted my energy, took a long hike up Mount Si, cooked for myself again, slept without checking my phone. I even went to the beach one evening, just sat there, shoes off, watching the tide roll in under a purple sky. It felt good, real, untethered. Then the letter came. A real one. Handwritten. From Dad. The envelope was unassuming, then no dramatic markings, just my name in careful print. I opened it slowly, not sure what I'd find. Inside, his handwriting still the same slanted block letters I remembered from lunch notes in elementary school. It started simply. Son, it read, I don't expect forgiveness, but I owe you honesty. And what followed was 4 pages of raw, stumbling accountability. He admitted the truth that he'd been drowning for years, that leaning on me was never meant to become permanent, but it did. He said Monica had pushed for the guest list, said it would be too tense if I came. And he didn't fight her. Because he was tired. Because he was scared. Because it was easier to disappoint me than disappoint her. He called himself a coward, and for the first time, I believed he saw it. You didn't embarrass me at the party, he wrote. You exposed the lie I've been pretending wasn't there, and I deserved it. He ended with a simple line, if you ever want to talk, not to ask for anything, just to talk, I'm here. I read it twice, then folded it neatly and tucked it into my drawer. I didn't cry. I didn't write back, not yet. But I didn't throw it away either. And maybe that's something. Maybe not all bridges have to burn. Some can just stay untraveled for a while. Give the airtime to clear. Give you space to remember who you are without the weight of everyone else's expectations. I used to think family was forever. Now I think family is earned. Not by blood, but by consistency, respect, and the kind of love that doesn't come with strings or spreadsheets. For 6 years, I gave without boundaries. And for one night, I finally gave them the truth. That might not make me the perfect son, but it finally made me whole. 3 days after the letter, I got a text from Trent. Just one line. You happy now I didn't answer? Because honestly, I didn't know. Happy wasn't the right word. I didn't feel like I'd won anything, I hadn't landed a promotion or bought a dream house. I'd just stopped bleeding. And that didn't feel like victory, it felt like survival. The next week was quiet. Eerily so. No texts from Dad, no dramatic follow-ups from Monica. It was as if my silence had finally become louder than all their requests combined. I found myself walking more. No destination. Just walking. There's something about putting one foot in front of the other with no agenda that clears your head better than any therapist. On one of those walks, I found myself outside a coffee shop I used to visit when I first moved to Seattle, back when everything felt new and possible. I stepped inside. Same old chalkboard menu, same weird jazz playlist. I ordered a black coffee, sat down by the window, and pulled out my phone. I hadn't deleted the letter. Still had the envelope tucked in a drawer. Still read it again the night before. I wasn't ready to forgive Dad, but I wasn't ready to erase him either. That's the part people never talk about, how complicated it is when someone you love also lets you down. It's not a clean break. It's layers. It's memory versus reality. The version of him who made pancakes on Saturdays versus the man who ghosted me at his birthday party. So I sat there sipping coffee and thinking about how many things in life aren't one or the other. They're both. That afternoon, I got a call from Aunt Val. She didn't ask how I was. She already knew. Instead, she told me what was happening back home. Monica had moved out, packed her bags and left the Monday after the party, took her jewelry, her designer shoes, and according to Aunt Val, a sizable chunk of the joint account. She said the embarrassment was too much, Val said. Said you ruined everything. I nearly laughed. All I did was tell the truth. If that ruined everything, maybe it wasn't worth saving in the first place. Val continued. Your dad's been quiet, won't talk to most of the family, keeps saying he's trying to figure things out. I could picture it. Him sitting in that kitchen I helped remodel, surrounded by silence and unpaid bills. It should have made me feel vindicated. Instead, it just made me tired. I thanked her, promised to keep in touch, and ended the call. I didn't tell her that I'd already moved the rest of my dad-related budget into a new savings account, that I'd renamed it Rebuild Fund. Not for him, for me. That night, I sat down and did something I'd been putting off for years. I called a financial advisor. We set up a real retirement plan, laid out long-term investments, and talked through goals I hadn't dared say out loud in a long time. Things like owning a house, traveling, not just surviving, living. It felt strange taking that step, like I was reclaiming territory I didn't know I'd given away. The next day, I booked a solo trip to Oregon. Just a week. Mountains, trees, silence. No phone, no guilt. I didn't tell anyone. I just went. And it was perfect. The first morning, I woke up to sunlight through pine trees and the smell of cedar, made coffee on a tiny camp stove, sat by the river with a journal I hadn't touched in years. I didn't write about Dad, or the party, or Monica. I wrote about me, what I wanted, who I missed being, the kind of life that felt like mine. I hiked for hours, ate simple meals, slept without nightmares. And somewhere in the middle of those days, I realized something I hadn't been able to admit before. I didn't miss the version of Dad who existed now. I missed the one I used to believe in. And those are not the same person. He used to be someone I trusted. Now he was a man who stood quietly while his son was turned away at the door, who spent the money meant for survival on parties and granite countertops, who let someone else decide my value based on convenience. That wasn't the man who raised me. That was the man who stopped trying. And that realization didn't make me angry. It made me free. When I returned home, tanned and clear-headed, my phone had 5 voicemails. 3 were from Dad, 1 from Trent, 1 from Monica. I didn't listen to hers. Trent's was a weak apology mixed with blame. Sorry if I was out of line, but you didn't have to humiliate him. I deleted it. Dad's voicemails were softer. One just said, I get it now. The last one, though, was different. I sold the boat, he said. You were right. It never made anything better. Just took up space. I'm listing the house next. It's time. I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's a start. I sat there holding the phone, unsure of what to feel. The boat was his escape, his excuse. Letting it go meant he was finally accepting reality. Maybe for the first time. Maybe because he had to, or maybe because he wanted to. I didn't call him back, but I didn't delete the message either. A week later, a card arrived. No envelope. Just a folded piece of cardstock with a picture of the house and the one sentence inside. Whatever happens next, thank you for waking me up. No signature. But I knew who it was from. And weirdly, that was enough. No demands, no guilt, just acknowledgement. Honest and plain. That kind of simplicity had been missing from our relationship for years. And now here it was. Late but not empty. I placed the card in the same drawer as the letter. Maybe one day I'd reply? But not yet. Some wounds need to stay quiet a little longer. Let scar tissue form without being picked open again. In the meantime, I lived. Fully. I started running again. Joined a local book club. Took an interest in cooking that didn't involve takeout apps. I stopped checking my phone for their emergencies. Stopped treating my inbox like a battlefield. I started being present in my own life, not just available in theirs. And slowly, something unexpected happened. I started to like who I was again. Not just the provider, not just the fixer. Me. Drew. The guy who survived the mess stood his ground and chose peace. Not revenge, not silence, just clarity. And in that clarity, I found something better than closure. I found myself. It's strange how quickly life starts to shift when you stop holding the wrong weight. I didn't realize how heavy it all had become, carrying everyone's expectations, covering everyone's emergencies, pretending it was just temporary until I finally let go. And once I did, the silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. The kind of quiet that doesn't make you anxious. It makes you whole. For the first time in years, I felt like I had permission to live without checking in on a disaster I didn't cause. My mornings weren't interrupted by phone calls asking for help, and my bank account wasn't bleeding from someone else's chaos. I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. There were no more shoes, just me moving forward. I didn't broadcast anything. I didn't post about the party. I didn't send a family-wide email explaining my side. I didn't need to. Truth doesn't need amplification when it's lived, and people were already talking. Word traveled through the family network faster than gossip at a wedding. A cousin I hadn't heard from in years messaged me on Facebook. Just heard what happened. You okay? I responded with a thumbs up and a simple line. Doing better than I have in a long time. Because it was true. The strange part wasn't the fallout, it was the quiet realignment that came after. People who once stayed neutral suddenly had opinions. My uncle, the one who never said much at family events, called me one evening just to say, "You were right to draw the line." He didn't elaborate, didn't need to. That sentence was heavier than any apology. It carried history, regret, maybe even his own unspoken stories. Then came the emails. A few relatives reached out not to take sides but to share their own experiences. Times they felt used, times they went along just to keep the peace. Turns out I wasn't the first to feel like a background character in someone else's narrative. I was just the first to say it out loud. And when you speak your truth, it echoes in ways you don't expect. It gives others permission to do the same. I started noticing little shifts in my own routine too. Grocery shopping became intentional instead of rushed. I took walks without headphones. I went to dinner alone and didn't check my phone once. I didn't realize how many moments I'd spent half present waiting for the next crisis, the next ask, the next guilt trip until those moments stopped coming. With time, I even opened that drawer again. The one with the letter, the voicemail, the card. I reread them slowly, not looking for excuses or justifications, just absorbing them for what they were: attempts. Flawed late, but still honest. And in that honesty, something softened. Not in a forgive and forget kind of way, but in the way your shoulders drop after a long day. I found myself no longer angry, just distant, detached in a healthy way. Like letting go of a rope you've been tugging on for years only to realize you were the only one holding it. Around that time, I heard from my brother again. A text, then a call. I let the first few attempts go unanswered. But eventually I picked up, not because I missed him, because I needed closure. "Hey," he said, his voice unsure, maybe even nervous. "Hey," I replied, flat but not cold. "So, listen, I just wanted to say I didn't mean for it to go that way. At the party, I mean." I let the silence hang for a beat. "You said I wasn't real family," I reminded him. "That's not something that just slips out." "I was angry," he said. "I felt like you were judging me." "I wasn't judging," I said. "I was holding up a mirror." There's a difference. He didn't respond right away. I could hear his breathing fast and shallow, like he was walking in circles. "Dad's a mess," he finally said. "He's selling the house. Monica's gone. It's just chaos." "That's not my chaos to fix anymore," I said gently. "I know," he replied. "I just wanted you to know. I guess I get it now, what it felt like, carrying all of it." "Do you?" I asked, not with anger, just curiosity, because it didn't seem to bother you when the checks kept coming. "I was stupid," he said, "and lazy, and yeah, I let you do the heavy lifting." "I'm sorry," I exhaled, letting those words settle. They weren't perfect, but they were real. "Thanks," I said. "That doesn't change everything, but it's a start." "So, where does that leave us?" he asked. "Right here," I said. "Not enemies, not best friends, just two people trying to do better." He didn't argue, and for once he didn't ask for anything. The call ended quietly. No drama, no promises, just space. And that was more than enough. In the weeks that followed, I kept moving, built new routines, picked up photography, started volunteering on weekends, not for resume points, just because it felt good to give without being drained. The kind of giving that doesn't ask for anything in return. One afternoon while organizing old files, I came across a picture. Me, Dad, and Trent at the lake. I was maybe 15, we were all smiling, sunburned, dirty from fishing. I stared at it for a long time. Not with sadness, not with longing, just acceptance. That moment was real. That version of us existed. And maybe that's enough. Not all stories end with perfect reunions. Some end with boundaries, with clarity, with quiet chapters where healing doesn't scream, it just exists. Softly, in the background, like a song you hum without realizing. And maybe the most powerful thing I've done in this whole journey wasn't walking into that party or making a speech. Maybe it was the decision that came after, to keep going, to choose myself, to be the kind of man I needed when I was younger. Not for them. For me. The son who learned how to stay soft in a world that kept asking him to harden. The brother who didn't stay bitter. The man who turned pain into purpose without ever needing to shout. Because sometimes the strongest move isn't revenge. It's peace and mine. Mine started the moment I stopped chasing apologies and started living like I deserved better, even if no one said it out loud. I used to think endings had to be loud. Final scenes with slammed doors, dramatic exits, some kind of punctuation mark that told everyone, this is it. But turns out real closure doesn't look like that. It's quieter. It's not an explosion. It's the slow exhale after holding your breath for years. Mine came one morning over coffee. No big moment, just a realization so soft it almost slipped by. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for an apology, not for recognition, not for things to go back to how they were. Because how they were had been built on a faulty foundation. And now I was standing on something solid myself. Around that time, Dad sent one more letter. This one was short. No rambling, no excuses, just a folded sheet of lined paper in his neat block letters. The house is sold, it said. Got a small apartment near the river. It's not much, but it's enough. Started a job at the hardware store down the street. It's been humbling, but in a good way. I'm learning how to be enough again without leaning on you to make me feel that way. I hope someday we can sit down and talk. No agenda, no fixing, just father and son. But if not, I still want you to know. I'm proud of you. Always have been. Love, Dad. I read it twice then again, and this time the ache in my chest wasn't anger. It was grief. Not for the party, not for the money, for the years I spent trying to earn something I already deserved. His love, his respect, his pride? Turns out I had it all along. He just didn't know how to show it back then. Or maybe I didn't know how to receive it unless it came with strings. Either way, we were both different people now, and that was okay. A few months passed, seasons shifted, life moved on. I kept working, saving, living. Bought a used car I actually liked. Took another solo trip, this time to the coast. Started dating again, not because I was lonely, but because I finally had the emotional bandwidth to share life with someone. You'd be surprised how attractive confidence looks when it isn't tied to validation. And somewhere in those ordinary days, I realized something else. Forgiveness isn't always for them. Sometimes it's what you do when you're ready to stop carrying someone else's mistakes on your back. I didn't forgive Dad in one clean moment. It came in waves, in the quiet space between memories and healing, in the way I could say his name without feeling heat rise in my throat, in the way I stopped checking my account every time he texted. It came when I no longer needed him to make it right in order for me to move forward, and that was freedom. One sunny Saturday, I found myself driving out toward the river. I hadn't planned it. Just woke up, made coffee, and thought, maybe today's the day. I didn't text him, didn't call, I just went. Found the hardware store on a quiet corner near a bridge. It was small, unassuming, but tidy. Someone had swept the sidewalk out front. The windows were clean. I stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled. And there he was, stocking a shelf of paint cans, moving slower than he used to, but still steady. He looked up. Froze. Our eyes met. No drama. No music swelling in the background. Just two men who once knew each other better than anyone, now staring across years of silence. "Hey, Drew," he said, his voice rough but real. "Hey, Dad," I replied. And just like that, we started again. We didn't talk about the party, or the money, or Monica. We talked about the weather, the store, the river trail he liked to walk after shifts. He told me about a stray cat that kept hanging around and how he was thinking of adopting it. I told him about my new job, the book I was reading, the trip I wanted to take next spring. And it was enough. We didn't hug, we didn't cry. But when I left, he walked me out, stood on the sidewalk as I drove away, and lifted his hand in a small wave. I waved back. No promises, no timelines, just space. Open, uncluttered space. That night, I sat on my balcony, beer in hand, watching the sky turn amber. I thought about how long it took me to stop being angry, to stop measuring love in dollars and guilt, and how proud I was of the person I'd become, not in spite of the pain, but because of how I chose to respond to it. People always say family is forever, but I think the truth is more complicated. Family is who shows up, who grows with you, who honors your boundaries and doesn't punish you for having them. Sometimes that's the people you're born to. Sometimes it's the ones you find along the way. For me, it was a mix. My aunt, who never let me feel alone in that ballroom. My uncle, who called when he didn't have to. Friends who listened without judgment. And eventually a father who, though late, chose humility over pride. That counts for something. Maybe not everything, but something. Enough. So now when people ask what happened at that party, I just smile and say, I finally told the truth. No need for the whole saga, the details belong to me. The lesson, though, that's worth sharing. If you're giving more than you're getting, if your presence only matters when your wallet's open, if love feels like a transaction, you have permission to stop, to say no, to draw a line. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. I spent years thinking being a good son meant sacrifice, that love meant endurance. But real love, it doesn't empty you, it fills you back up. And these days, I stay full. Not because everything's perfect, but because I finally know what I deserve. And I never, ever forget it. The story didn't end with a toast, or a fallout, or a reconciliation. It ended here, with me sitting in the fading light hole and unafraid. No longer anyone's lifeboat, no longer waiting at doors I was never meant to be locked out of. Just a man healed by his own truth, finally home in himself. Story 2. I was sued by my parents for my new home. Your brother should get it. In court they argued. I represented myself on my own. Their argument fell apart when the court heard their scheme. Hi everyone. Prior to the start of today's video, I need your assistance. We've seen that the channel is becoming less popular, and one of the finest ways you can help us is by subscribing. It's simple, free, and helps us continue to provide you with amazing content. Your assistance is much appreciated. Together, let's continue to build this channel. Many thanks. Let's begin the video now. Okay, Reddit. After years of hard work, I, a 31-year-old man, finally purchased my first home last year. However, my own parents sued me, attempting to legally take it away from me and give it to my recalcitrant brother. The fact that this actually occurred still amazes me. But now we're going. Some background. I was raised in a middle-class Michigan suburb. Dad was a 58-year-old guy who managed a regional office supply chain. Mom, a 56-year-old woman, worked as an administrative assistant at a medical office. Tyler, my 7-year-old younger brother, was always the best hockey player ever. He was popular and gregarious when he wanted to be, but he essentially coasted through life with little effort. My parents always said they had money for both of us to attend college, but when I finished, unexpected medical bills and investment losses had drained my fund. It's funny that a few years later, Tyler's college fund was unaffected by the same problems. The partiality was overt. The contrast was absurd throughout high school. Tyler needed a safe car for winter driving, so my parents leased him a $24,000 new Jeep when he was 16. In the meantime, I was driving a 1997 Ford Taurus that had 198,000 miles on it and was rusted out, which I had purchased from my uncle's neighbor for $800. 3 months' worth of food shop earnings were lost when the alternator had to be replaced 2 weeks after it was purchased. I can very clearly recall Tyler's Jeep purchase day. With a huge red ribbon on the bonnet, Dad videotaped the entire surprise unveiling in the driveway. Shared it widely on Facebook as if he were the year's father. When I was buying a car, my dad sent me the seller's number and advised me to check the gearbox fluid. That was all he was involved in. I worked full-time at a warehouse loading dock and attended a community college for 2 years after high school. I worked nights at a 24-hour gas station, studied network security, transferred to State University, and graduated with $37,000 in student debts that I'm still repaying. No parental assistance, not even a textbook. Tyler was sent to a private university that costs $42,000 a year, fully financed by mom and dad's bank. They quickly made up the difference when he lost his hockey scholarship after failing 2 semesters in his sophomore year. It took him 5.5 years to earn a degree in communications, and he changed his major 4 times. They provided him with a monthly food allowance, paid for his apartment in the hip area of campus, bought him a MacBook Pro every other year, and even paid for a semester in Barcelona that was essentially a 6-month party. The biggest joke was the semester in Barcelona. Tyler received a C- in both of the subjects he studied: Spanish culture and international communications. He returned with 11 different nations worth of trip images, none of which had been on his initial academic schedule. Mom put his favorite photos in the living room after having them properly framed. I need emergency dental surgery during my junior year due to an infected, impacted wisdom teeth. After insurance, the total cost was $1,800. I asked my folks if I might take out a loan till I got paid again. Their money was tight, so Mom advised me to inquire about payment options. Guess who paid for Tyler's spring break trip, which he shared on Instagram 2 weeks later? Since middle school, my best friend Kevin has seen this garbage. Since our first math class together in 7th school, we have remained close. He had comparable familial drama. When he was 14, his parents got divorced and got married again. In both homes, Kevin is essentially marginalized by others who have their own children. Being the ones who were ignored brought us together. He currently works for an automobile firm as a mechanical engineer. Married and has a daughter who is 2 years old. Kevin witnessed it all. He was present when Tyler purchased the newest Apple Watch, and I purchased a secondhand TI-3 calculator for $40 from Craigslist. Because I couldn't afford the $24.99 oil change special, he helped me manage my time by changing the oil in my Taurus in 20-degree weather. At the dealership, Tyler's Jeep was enrolled in a premium maintenance plan. I got a $56,000 entry-level job at a cybersecurity company after graduation, sharing an apartment with 3 other males. It was inexpensive, therefore 8 people thought it was great. Drove that same Taurus for 267,000 miles when the gearbox eventually failed. Spent $7,500 on a used Hyundai. For years I drove it. My first apartment was in a rundown complex and had 4 bedrooms. I paid $475 for my portion of the rent plus utilities. 6 months of the year I slept with a box fan next to my bed. Although roaches were common, I could afford them while trying to save money and pay off student loans. The day I took my Hyundai Elantra, which had 87,000 miles on it, off the used car lot. Tyler shared pictures of his most recent business meeting at a golf resort on social media. According to his LinkedIn profile, he was the founder and CEO of whatever nonsense business my parents were funding at the time. I was bringing microwave meals to work and keeping track of every dollar in a spreadsheet. After graduating, Tyler concluded he was too imaginative for a traditional career path. His business endeavors, including a podcast network that squandered $15,000, were funded by his parents. A consulting business with no clients, a drop-shipping store, and $12,000 wasted. When none of that worked, Tyler's father used a college friend to help him land an entry-level job as a marketing coordinator at a nearby brewery. However, he somehow got a company laptop and expense account right away. I was working 60-hour weeks attending night classes to earn security certifications and establishing my professional network the hard way during this time. I outperformed everyone else, which is why I received every promotion. Just pure grinding, no handouts, no connections. I began by learning how to fix basic problems, progressed to network administration, and eventually became a security specialist. Each move came with added responsibility and better pay, but also meant learning new skills on my own time and dime. I lived like a college student for years after graduation. No eating out, no streaming services used. Kevin's Netflix, no new clothes unless absolutely necessary. My apartment decor consisted of whatever furniture previous roommates had left behind, plus a few IKEA basics. Every bonus went straight to savings or debt. Pay down. No vacations except for those weekends at Kevin's family lake cabin where we'd fish, grill whatever we caught, and sleep on air mattresses. Fast forward to last year. I've busted my ass, jumped companies twice for better roles, got several high-level certifications paid for myself, and finally hit $112,000 as a senior network security engineer. I'd been saving aggressively since my first real job. No vacations other than a long weekend at Kevin's lake cabin. No expensive hobbies, no fancy clothes. Lived with roommates until last year when I moved into a basic one-bedroom apartment. After a decade of grinding, I finally bought my house. 3-bed, 2-bath attached garage, decent yard in a solid neighborhood about 25 minutes from downtown. Cost me $395,000. Put down $79,000 from my savings and locked in a 4.9% mortgage rate. After weeks of shopping around closing day was the proudest moment of my life. Sitting at that table signing those papers, walking out with the keys to my house that I bought with my money that I earned through my work. I didn't post about it on social media. Didn't throw a housewarming party. Just quietly moved my stuff over the weekend with Kevin's help. We ordered pizza, set up my TV and couch, and played Xbox until 2 a.m. on moving day. Adult equivalent of building a blanket fort. The house itself wasn't perfect, built in 1996 in decent condition but needed some updates. But the bones were solid. Good roof, newer vac, no foundation issues. And more importantly, it was mine. First projects were practical stuff, changing all the locks and garage door codes, installing a Ring doorbell and security system, replacing the ancient water heater that was on its last legs. Then came small cosmetic improvements, painting the dingy beige walls in the living areas, replacing dated light fixtures, power washing the deck and fence 2 weeks after moving in. I was still reveling in homeowner bliss. Mom's name flashed on the screen. "Hey Mom, what's up?" "Hi honey, how's the new house getting all settled in?" "Yeah, just putting up some shelves. Everything's good." I braced myself for whatever was coming. "That's wonderful, sweetie." The inevitable pause. "So I'm calling because we have a bit of a situation with Tyler." "Of course we did." "What happened this time?" "Well, he's had a bit of a setback. The brewery let him go yesterday. Let him go." Was family code for fired? I'd watched this movie previously. You know how these places are. No appreciation for creative types, something about attendance regulations being non-negotiable. I could hear the air quotes apparently coming up 15 minutes late a couple times as reason for firing these days. "Most jobs do expect you to show there on time, Mom." She disregarded that. "The main problem is his residence. Without his employment, he can't make rent. His landlord is being very unfair about it." Unreasonable meaning, he expects to get compensated. I scoffed. "Honey, this is serious. Tyler needs a place to stay." "Just momentarily, of course, just until he finds another job and gets back on his feet." My stomach fell, and you're phoning me because, well, you have that wonderful new house. 1 person in 3 bedrooms. For a few weeks, I'm sure you could assist your brother. I just moved in, Mom. Tyler and I have quite different lives, and I'm still unpacking. It would only last a little while, for weeks, for as long as possible, until he finds anything else that is. This is not a good concept, in my opinion. I would be very grateful, honey, as would your father. Family is family, isn't it? We brought you up in this manner. The guilt trip train had already departed the station. Give it some thought. All right, I must. Really, honey, there isn't time to contemplate. By tomorrow, Tyler must be gone. His landlord has already found a new tenant. We would allow him to remain here, but you are aware of your father's poor health, and we made your father's home office out of Tyler's former room. I'll give you a call back. After saying that, I hung up. I phoned Kevin right away. My brother lost his job once more. Without a prelude, I said, "I'll guess." Mom called and asked for money. Even worse, it is their desire for him to live with me. Even over the backdrop store announcements, the snort could be heard. "Tell me you hung up after laughing, please. It's only for a few weeks, they say." "No, dude, not at all." "Do you still remember the 2018 PlayStation incident?" I flinched. After just 1 weekend of use, Tyler returned my PlayStation 4 with 2 damaged controllers 3 months later. Now it's different. The home is mine. I am able to establish limits. Furthermore, how precisely do you intend to enforce such limits? When he eventually stays too long, you're going to change the locks. He is related. Kev, I love you, bro, but you're acting like a fool. This has the makings of a catastrophe. The Titanic meets Hindenburg is what I mean. Catastrophe levels. I'll give it some thought. No, you won't. Your mother's employment of the magic family guilt words will compel you to give in. In 3 weeks, when Tyler has taken over your living room and consumed everything in your refrigerator, you will give me a call. You're overstating things. I'm being practical. Your family is really skilled at exploiting you. My phone rang again right away after we hung up. Dad, son this time. According to your mother, you're hesitant to assist your brother. The tone of his speech was that of an authoritative figure who demanded instant obedience. He's attempting to get back on track, but I understand that you two have had disagreements. Until he finds another job, this would only be a temporary solution. No more than 4 weeks, I swear. Furthermore, it won't, if it continues. I'll see to it with your mother. Dad, I'm not sure. He has already gathered his belongings. You'd probably say yes, we told him. Hold on, what? He began packing. We had faith that you would act morally. You always do. And there it was. The sarcastic remark that also served as emotional blackmail. All right, I said, already feeling guilty. But no more than 4 weeks. He's out by then if he doesn't have a job and a place of his own. My doorbell rang an hour later. Tyler wasn't the only one. The whole family was involved. Tyler, his parents, and a car full of his belongings. It was the moving committee. I opened the door, and Tyler smiled. Hello, my friend. I appreciate the save. This place appears to be sick. Mom smiled behind him as if this were some kind of touching family get-together. Already, Dad was emptying the trunk of the suitcases. As soon as he entered the house, Tyler shoved past me and started looking at the space suite. Although the TV is a little small, we can adjust it. Which room's mine? I stood there, keys in hand, already sensing the avalanche of regret heading my way. Within 20 minutes, Tyler had commandeered the second largest bedroom, connected his gaming PC to my internet, and was sprawled on my couch, scrolling through his phone. Mom was rearranging my kitchen cabinets to make space for Tyler's things, and Dad was offering unsolicited advice about my lawn care routine. When they finally left, Tyler immediately ordered pizza on my account, claiming he'd pay me back when his final check cleared. I texted Kevin a picture of the chaos that happened in my house in less than an hour. His response was immediate. The Titanic has left the dock. I'll prepare the lifeboat and the I told you so speech. Maybe we should start a betting pool on how long before he brings home a random Tinder date and uses your bed. Anyways, the first week after Tyler moved in was actually decent. Tyler helped unpack some boxes, assembled a bookshelf, and seemed genuinely appreciative. That lasted exactly 9 days. I had the guest bedroom set up with a queen bed dresser nightstand and desk made space in the kitchen cabinets and fridge for his food. Gave him a spare house key. Basically treated him like an adult roommate. By week 2, Tyler started acting like he owned the place, leaving dishes in the sink, inviting friends over without asking. Taking over the living room with his gaming setup, he'd blast music at 1 a.m., eat food I'd bought without replacing it, and leave wet towels on my new bathroom floor. The first time I came home to find 3 strangers in my living room playing my Xbox, I was caught off guard. Tyler introduced them as the guys like I should know who they were. They had ordered pizza and left the empty boxes on my coffee table. One guy had his feet up on my couch with his shoes on. Tyler acted like this was completely normal. I tried talking to him, reasonably established some basic house rules. He nodded along, then completely ignored everything we discussed. When I'd confront him, he'd always have an excuse or say I was being uptight and acting like Dad talking to Kevin about it over lunch one day. He warned me that Tyler was establishing residency and could become a legal nightmare to remove if I let this continue. I brushed it off, thinking that sounded paranoid. My brother might be a mooch, but he wouldn't go that far. I was wrong. 1 month turned into 2. No job, no apartment hunting, just Tyler playing video games all day while I worked, then going out with his friends at night. My parents started dropping by unannounced to check on Tyler, but really to scope out my house. They'd make comments like Tyler's room is a bit small for a long-term setup. It was the second largest bedroom. Or you should let Tyler set up his gaming station in the living room since he's home all day. Dad would walk around inspecting things, pointing out minor flaws like he was doing me a favor. These gutters need cleaning. Your lawn care missed an area. This garage door opener sounds like it needs repair. Never volunteering to help, just recording faults in my home. I observed minor things missing too. A set of Bluetooth headphones, a portable phone charger, my PlayStation controller, a jacket. When confronted, Tyler always had the same reaction. Dude, I haven't seen it. Maybe you left it at work. Then I'd discover my jacket in his closet, or my earphones in his backpack. The kitchen became a combat zone. I'd arrive home to discover every dish unclean food left out, overnight spills not cleaned up. The garbage would be overflowing but never taken out. When I'd ask Tyler to tidy up, he'd say he was just about to do that or pretend he was waiting for the dishwasher to complete a dishwasher. He had never drained before. My utilities went up a lot. In the summer, Tyler would turn the air conditioner up to 65 degrees and then open the windows. Every light in the home would be on while he was gaming with 3 monitors running for more than 12 hours a day, and he would take 30-minute showers twice a day. My water cost increased by 80 and my electricity bill quadrupled. He recommended that I switch to more energy-efficient appliances once I brought it up. After 3 months, I was done. In order to have a place with more space and better light, Tyler relocated my home office setup to the smallest bedroom when I got home from work. "Tyler," I yelled. He appeared utterly unconcerned as he strolled in from the kitchen carrying an energy drink. "You're home early, huh? What on earth is this?" He gave a shrug. "I just made a few adjustments. It gets much better in that room." Daylight. Without asking, you relocated my entire stinking office, which I pay for, into my house. "Man, it's not a huge thing. I handled your belongings with care. At least the most of it. One of those cables rolled over your chair, the one that's blue. But probably all right. You were not authorized to handle my belongings. I live here. Here you are a visitor." "Really? Are you going to become that upset about a room traditional? Hasn't it always been about the money with you? Cash money isn't the issue here. It's all about respect." Tyler gave an eye roll. "It's not a huge problem, you see. I'll assist you with the office setup in the adjacent room." "No," I said. "Tonight you're going to restore everything to its original state. After that, you'll begin searching for a place of your own." He grinned. "In fact, I was considering staying till the end of the year in order to save money, you know. It is a fine strategy according to Mom and Dad." Something broke inside of me. I took hold of his shirt front. "Pay close attention to what I have to say. This is not a vote for the family. For 4 weeks you were expected to be here. 3 fucking months have passed." "Stop touching me, dude. What's wrong with you? You are my issue." He sneered. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Big Shot Network Engineer." I inhaled deeply while attempting to keep my fury in check. "You have 30 days to locate another location. That's all. I'm finished." In my face, Tyler chuckled. "Yes, furthermore, where should I go? As you are aware, I am now unable to pay my rent on my own. It's not my issue. Get a damn job. Find roommates. Return to your parents' house. You're not staying here and I don't care." My folks asked me to Sunday supper that weekend. After dessert, they sat me down and gave me an explanation of how they planned to handle the current circumstance. It made sense for Tyler to stay with me indefinitely because I was so established in my career and he was still finding his path, Dad said. Mom added that, if necessary, they would even assist with some of the utilities. But while he was looking for chances, Tyler needed a secure place to live. I was blown away. This was no longer about a short-term circumstance. Their goal was to make my house Tyler's permanent home. "Absolutely not," I told them. "It's always been simpler for you." Mom cried. "Despite Tyler's problems, you are very disciplined." I gave a sour laugh. "Simpler. I earned all I own. Family supports family." Dad snarled. "As we promised, he must get employment and a place of his own." Dad got to his feet. "You're not loyal or compassionate." "Loyalty," I pushed my chair back. "When you paid for his degree but not mine, was that loyal? When I drove a death trap and you bought him cars?" From the corner, Tyler grinned. "The victim is always the one who suffers. As I mentioned, you're gone after 30 days. I gestured to him. "Not negotiable." They were left in startled stillness as I left. A week later, the last straw. Tyler was throwing a crazy party at my house with at least 15 people using my new grill when I arrived home early from work due to a migraine. My couch had a drink spilled on it. The deck I recently refinished had a cigarette burn from someone else, and Tyler had shown someone my bedroom where they had apparently tested it out on my bed. Around noon, I texted Tyler to let him know I wasn't feeling well and would be returning home early. He gave it a thumbs up in response. 6 unfamiliar cars were parked in front of my house when I pulled into my driveway at 2:30. I could hear the music playing loudly before I even got out of my car. I went crazy and threw everyone out. Informed Tyler that he was now departing. "I couldn't get him to leave," he screamed. That after 3 months, our parents informed him that he had residential rights. At night, I changed the locks through his clothes and gaming PC onto the front lawn and literally led him to the door. I called Kevin right away and he helped me take time-stamped pictures of all the damage and came over with pizza. He saw that Tyler had also removed my extra car key from the kitchen hook while we were tidying up. The following morning, Ricky, my car was ours. It resulted in a nuclear shitstorm. Our parents arrived at midnight, hammering on my door and threatening to call the police for an unauthorized eviction after Tyler called them. I wouldn't divulge. After Tyler withdrew to our parents' house, I had official eviction papers prepared and delivered to him the following morning. The following day, Mom and Dad were seen driving by my house 3 times on my security cameras. They demanded in their voicemails that I return Tyler's belongings. It seemed that he now owned the kitchenware and the TV from the guest room. The tone of each message increased from guilt-tripping to direct threats. You'll be sorry when you see what happens next, according to Mom's most recent voicemail. Things became really crazy at that point. My parents sought advice from Tyler's friend's father, a real estate lawyer, rather than assuming that the gravy train had stopped. I received papers 3 days later. My parents, who had allegedly made both financial and emotional investments in my success, were suing me for my house. Bullshit. Tyler was unlawfully evicted after establishing tenancy. After living rent-free for 3 months, I felt obligated to support my family in need. Tyler's difficulties with mental health required a stable living situation, which was new to me. My finances allowed me to buy another house, most crazily. They insisted that Tyler receive the deed while I kept up my mortgage payments for a minimum of a year, or until Tyler could build up enough credit. Under the guise of legalese, the lawsuit document was 27 pages of entitlement delusions. One section listed all the ways my parents helped me succeed, including by feeding me during my early years. As a child, they gave me congrats and offered me emotional support as I advanced in my education. Every now and then, they inquired about the progress of school. According to the document, these amounted to an implicit investment in my future assets and income. Tyler's alleged contributions to my property, including interior design consultation, were detailed in another section. He recommended that I upgrade my landscape and purchase a larger TV. When I had a work emergency, he once mowed the lawn. These small chores amounted to sweat equity in my house per their file. Their plea for relief was the most ridiculous aspect. In addition to requesting that I give Tyler my house and keep up my mortgage payments, they also wanted me to pay $15,000 to ease Tyler's mental pain from the terrible eviction process and to cover all of their legal costs. The night I was served, Kevin came over and I was blown away. He introduced me to Scott, his brother-in-law, who practiced law at a firm that focused on property disputes. After reading the complaint, Scott really burst out laughing at several of its passages. He told me that any judge would dismiss it right away, calling it the most baseless property claim he had encountered in his 15 years of business. Although he volunteered to represent me at a discounted rate, he cautioned that legal fees may still reach $5,000 to $8,000. Considering that formal replies must be prepared, hearings must be attended, etc. Scott advised me to represent myself, but I chose to do otherwise. I had all the paperwork I needed to establish the case, and it was really ridiculous. I used all of my own funds to buy the house. Moreover, it would cost thousands to hire a lawyer. I had no desire to spend money on this nonsense. In any case, Scott helped me get ready, teaching me how to arrange my evidence and what to anticipate in court. We went over papers, prepared my statement, and practiced answers to frequently asked questions for the upcoming month over the course of 3 evenings at his office. The persecution from the family persisted. Tyler began to accuse me of stealing his fortune and giving him special treatment as a child. The exact reverse of reality. My parents phoned my extended relatives and made up a tale about how I had brutally and abruptly thrown Tyler out after promising him a long-term place to live with me. Concerning communications began to come in from old family friends. I got a call from my high school baseball coach asking how I was doing, claiming to have heard that I was having some problems. I received a lengthy email from my mother's cousin on the value of family. Scriptures regarding brotherly love are included. My parents had started a full-scale public relations effort against me. My dad's brother, Uncle Dave, contacted me to inform me that my parents had requested a loan from him to pay for their legal bills, arguing that I was acting strangely and had mental health problems. Fortunately, Dave had always refused seeing through their partiality. 6 weeks later, the court date came. I arrived wearing my finest suit and a binder filled with tabbed mortgage documents and bank bills proving the down payment was entirely taken out of my account. I made it very clear in text messages to Tyler and my parents that the living arrangement was just temporary. Pictures of Tyler's party damage. Everything. Tyler and my dad showed up together in similar blue suits resembling a bizarre advertisement for a family law business. Tyler was holding a leather portfolio that I'm very certain was empty, and he had even slicked his hair back. Before we even made it inside the courtroom, my mother was already using a tissue to wipe at her eyes. First, their attorney made their case. It was a masterclass in legal stretching and emotional manipulation. In an attempt to demonstrate the strong family ties, he displayed pictures of the family taken over many years. According to his verbal contract theory, my consent to let Tyler stay amounted to a pledge of ownership. He told a story about how I had allegedly assured Tyler that he would always have a place to call home, converting my grudging consent to a short-term stay into a housing guarantee of some kind for the rest of my life. When it was my time, I just gave the information about the mortgage in my name alone. Every payment was made using my own money. text messages demonstrating the arrangement's transient nature, documentation of Tyler's financial dependence and unemployment, pictures of the property, harm caused by his unapproved party. I started by creating the chronology. The arrangement was temporary as agreed upon when Tyler moved in after I bought the property. I showed Tyler the text conversations we had and he made it clear that the stay was just temporary till I found a home of my own. Thank you for your assistance for a few weeks, bro. I provided documentation demonstrating that I had paid all utility bills, made all mortgage payments, and paid for all house renovations and repairs myself. The pictures of the party's devastation were especially powerful even though Tyler had lived there for 3 months without paying any rent and had never contributed a single dollar to family expenditures. The hardwood flooring where someone had moved furniture were scraped by the wine-stained sofa cigarette burn on the deck, which was fully recorded and time-stamped. For every item, I provided an estimate for repair. The judge posed some challenging queries. How much money have you contributed to this home, Mr. Tyler? When Tyler talked about sweat equity from putting together a bookshelf, he stumbled. Did you make any mortgage payments or the down payment? The judge swiftly disproved Mom's claim that raising me had helped them contribute to my success. Additionally, you're asking your older son to continue paying the mortgage on a house he would no longer own, in addition to giving your younger son ownership of his property. In fact, Dad said yes. The equitable family solution, he explained. My father said something I will never forget when the judge asked him to explain the rationale for this arrangement. In life, our younger kid need more assistance. Self-sufficiency has always been a strength of our elder kid. Just leveling the playing field is what we're aiming for. The judge seems truly perplexed. He had one last question for me. Did you ever say or imply that your brother would live with you permanently or have any ownership stake in your house? I told the truth, Your Honor, absolutely not. I consented to a short-term arrangement of a few weeks while he looked for work and a place of his own. That was more than 3 months ago, and he didn't try to accomplish either of those things. A 15-minute recess was called by the judge. He warned my parents' lawyer about filing pointless cases in the future and dropped the matter completely upon his return, claiming it had no legal value at all. He then declared that any more claims against the property would be deemed harassment and legally acknowledged my complete ownership rights. He even went so far as to force my parents to pay my court filing expenses outside of the courthouse, claiming that their complaint verged on misuse of the legal system. Hell erupted. My mother broke down in tears. Tyler began shouting that he would regret picking property over family and that I was dead. Dad simply gave me this look of sincere perplexity, as if he was genuinely unable to understand why his plan had failed. Mom gave an Oscar-worthy performance. Over her, Tyler alternated between consoling her and giving me a hateful glare. As I was making my way to my car, Dad came up to me. "I didn't raise you like this," he remarked. He spoke in a disappointed tone as though I had just attempted a lawful home invasion. Family members are meant to look out for one another. I just blocked their phones that evening, and the following day I put together a complete security system that included cameras on every street leading to my property. I didn't hear from them personally for the following month, but rumors about the family were circulating. Tyler had returned to live with our parents and was reportedly advising nearby companies on social media marketing. Playing Xbox and lacking a job. A large portion of my parents' funds had been depleted by the roughly $20,000 they spent on their unsuccessful lawsuit. I received a call from my cousin Jake informing me that Tyler was making vague threats on social media. Sometimes family members receive what they are due, and things like karma always come full circle. I got screenshots from him. There was nothing overtly dangerous, but the intention was obvious. I made sure my security system was constantly armed and kept a record of everything. The financial consequences followed. Dad was given an early retirement with a smaller pension when his firm underwent reorganization. The new doctor hired his own administrative team when Mom's old doctor retired. All of a sudden, Mom and Dad's bank was experiencing a severe liquidity problem. They couldn't have come at a worse time. Dad was just 58 years old and neither psychologically nor financially prepared for retirement. About 60% of his previous pay was what his decreased pension was. After more than 10 years of employment, Mom found herself on the job market against younger, tech-savvy candidates. They had refinanced twice to extract equity most likely to support Tyler's endeavors, and their mortgage had another 12 years left on it. Naturally, without my place to live in for free, Tyler was of no use. He was an expense they were unable to bear. For the first time in their adult life, they were managing their finances and their credit cards were fully charged. Dad texted me 6 weeks following the court case. "We must speak. It's crucial." I didn't answer. Kevin, who had supported me during this whole ordeal, suggested that I keep quiet at all costs. He emphasized that they're not contacting you because they're sorry or have realized their mistake, but rather because they need something. In all of their correspondence, his remarks were never particularly poignant. Had the lawsuit My House's attempted robbery and the years of favoritism been acknowledged, there would have been a genuine apology. Simply pleas for money disguised as emotional blackmail and guilt. Tyler attempted a new strategy 3 days later. I received an email from him at my workplace. I'm not sure how he managed to get the topic line right. I apologize for my mistake. Although there was no particular misconduct indicated in the email's content, it did note that he was going through a difficult time and could really use a brother at the moment. The true goal was revealed in the final line. Additionally, since Dad lost his work, Mom and Dad are having a lot of financial difficulties. The house might be taken from them. You're doing great, I know that. I just wanted to let you know how I responded. Total quiet. Weeks went by. Then one Saturday morning, Dad arrived at my door. I refused to open the door and instead chatted to him via the video doorbell. Dad seemed gaunt. He began with small conversation before getting right to the point. Their mortgage was 3 months past due. Before they discovered and disconnected Tyler, he had accrued $4,000 on Mom's credit card. To stay out of foreclosure, they needed $17,000. Just by himself, he emphasized. When they recovered, they would reimburse me. I eventually said 5 little sentences to end my quiet. There are repercussions for actions. Farewell. Dad's expression shifted. The frantic civility disappeared. The old entitled rage took its place. Following everything that we have done for you. You were reared by us, we dressed you. We provided you with a roof. And you pay us back like this by abandoning your loved ones. I chuckled. All that you have done for me. What do you mean by covering Tyler's tuition while I worked my way through college, or purchasing automobiles for him, while I saved money for a rusting Taurus, or bringing legal action against me for the home I paid for myself? That's all. Dad began to answer, but I disconnected and prevented them from using my video doorbell. My cousin informed me last week that my parents had actually lost their home. They and Tyler have moved into a 2-bedroom apartment. Dad got a job at a hardware shop part-time. Mom is interviewing for jobs as a receptionist. It appears that Tyler has begun working at a mall kiosk for a cell phone company. Without attempting to coerce me into getting back in touch, my cousin Jake keeps me informed about family events. He has seen the dynamics of our lives and knows where I stand. Jake claims that my parents had to sell the majority of their more expensive belongings, including their dad's golf clubs, Mom's jewelry, and their more expensive furnishings, only to keep the apartment safe. To pay his debts, Tyler sold off pieces of his valuable gaming equipment. Now my home is a true haven for me. I've fixed Tyler's friend's broken furniture, completed the deck, and turned the 3rd bedroom into a home gym. Kevin joins several guys from my workplace every week for our poker sessions. When I got my Rottweiler Max, I met a veterinarian with whom I have been dating ever since. My finest choice after purchasing the house was Max. He was 3 years old when I found him at a shelter. Owners give up because of their size. Without researching the breed, they ended up with a large dog. He is a 110-pound devoted friend with an imposing bark and an excellent security system improvement. The pandemic project I worked on was the home gym. I purchased equipment as I could afford it, piece by piece. Just a power rack, adjustable bench, barbell, and dumbbell set, nothing fancy. Added a TV hung on the wall and rubber flooring. My stress levels and level of fitness have significantly improved since I can now work out without having to cope with a packed commercial gym. I've been dating my girlfriend Sarah for 4 months now. We first met when I took Max in for his first post-adoption checkup. She is direct, self-reliant, and has goals and a job that are very different from those of my family. She respected my boundaries without passing judgment and quickly grasped the circumstances of my family. Additionally, I've begun to take investing more seriously. Create a suitable retirement portfolio by contributing to a Roth IRA and maximizing my 401k match. Opened a different investing account in anticipation of any future real estate acquisitions. In the next 5 years, I want to purchase a rental property. Passive income that gradually increases equity. This life I've created does not include my family, no more. A home isn't always the most desirable item money can purchase. It's the autonomy to decide who is worthy of occupying a position in your life. I'm frequently asked if I feel bad. I don't, not by any means. You can't attempt to legally steal someone's house and treat them like an ATM throughout your life, then expect pity when your own bad choices catch up with you. Drop your story in the comments. And if you've ever been underestimated, hit that like button and subscribe. We see you, and we've got more stories like this coming every week. Thanks for watching.